Okay. So if I try another rational exponent, 64 to the 2/3 power, you can see again, I get an answer of 16. So that took the third root of 64 and then squared that answer. Now, what if I wanted to do a problem like this? If I take this problem and solve it out here, you know, if we work this out on paper, we would take 23 plus 12, take the answer from that, and divide it by the answer from 6 minus 1. Now, there's two possible options on this. One of those is correct and one of them is not. If you were to work that on paper, you would see that your answer should be 7. Now, to make that come out right, I'm going to put this whole numerator in parentheses, use the division sign to stand for this fraction bar, and then put the whole denominator in parentheses. Oops. Now if I hit enter, 7 is in fact the correct answer. So this points out a general rule of thumb. If we have an expression in a numerator or a denominator, just like an expression in an exponent, if there is an operation in any of these pieces, we should include them in parentheses to separate them out. Now what about raising negative numbers to an exponent? Again, this is a tricky thing that the calculator can do. Now you would think that this should be a negative number. Well, why is it a negative number? We take 2, raise it to the 4th power, and then the calculator multiplies that answer by -1. Now what's the difference between that and this right here? This takes the number -2 and raises it to the 4th power. In other words, it takes -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. So as a general rule for this, if we're having to insert in a negative number underneath an exponent, for example, if I'm evaluating x to the 4th for x equals -2, I would need to put parentheses around the number that I'm inserting there. Now if I want to work with fractions, as I mentioned, the fraction should probably be put in parentheses. So if I want to do the problem 2/3 and 1/2, well, I'm going to go ahead and put 2/3 in here, again surrounded by parentheses, plus 1/2. Now, if I hit enter here right now, it is going to give me this answer in a decimal form. If I want it to automatically come out as a fraction in its lowest terms, if I go to the math menu again and select the first option, that is now going to give me that answer as 7/6. Again, I will note that that is a fraction in lowest terms, but notice that it is an improper fraction. The TI-83 does not give you answers as mixed numbers. And if you have a problem that says to add fractions and do not reduce, remember you probably should do those by hand because the calculator automatically reduces. Similar procedure can be done for multiplying fractions. So 10 divided by 13 times. Now I actually do not need to hit the multiplication sign here. This automatically is interpreted to be multiplication here. You can put the multiplication sign in there, it won't hurt anything. Again, I want this answer to be in a fraction form. And you can see that 10/13 times 26/15 in its reduced form, lowest terms, is 4/3. I can do the same thing for division. Now notice whenever I do divide, I do need to actually hit the division symbol between these two fractions here. Oh, I forgot to actually put that in as a fraction. Well, if I do get the decimal answer, I can go back and hit fraction, and you can see it's giving me a fraction there. So what if I do actually want to work with scientific notation? Say I want a number like 1.25 times 10 to the 7th plus 8.0 times 10 to the 4th. To enter that in, I need to use this key sequence up in here. If you see above the comma, it has an EE. That is actually what the calculator uses to stand for this part of that number, that times 10. So to put in this number, I'm going to go 1.25 second, and then the comma, you see the EE is above that, 7 plus 8 second, comma 4. So that stands for 1.25 times 10 to the 7th plus 8 times 10 to the 4th. Okay, it gave me a normal number notation. So if I want that to go into scientific notation, I'm going to go to Mode, arrow over to SCI, and hit Enter. Go back to my home screen, and there is the number in scientific notation. Similar operation can be done for multiplication. One of the cardinal rules is that we cannot divide by 0. So let's go ahead and try and do that. 6 divided by 0. You can see that it gives us an error. It tells us that we have divided by 0. If I arrow down and select the second option here, it's going to put a cursor behind where I've made that error. So you can see that it is actually putting a cursor right behind the 0 there. If I try 0 divided by 0, you can see that it gives me the same problem. If I go 0 divided by 5, though, in fact, it does give me an answer. I can divide 0 by any number except for itself. So you can see that the calculator will not let you break that big rule in math. Okay, if you need any more help, I would encourage you to come to the Learning Commons. All of our math tutors are really familiar with working with the TI-83, and they'd be glad to help you. In addition, I will direct you to our LibGuides page for the Learning Commons, and it also has some more detailed instructions as well.